Now we turn to Representative Lamborn for his 5 minutes of question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Sams, I totally appreciate our national parks. I've been to 300 units of the national park system. Recently, Secretary Holland testified in front of this committee, and in Colorado alone, where I have my congressional district, there is a deferred maintenance backlog and repairs that total $558 million. I asked her specifically if NPS is considering looking to the concession industry to support any of these important capital investment needs. Has she spoken to you about this? And can you answer where NPS is in leveraging the concessionaire industry? Concessionaires are willing to make long-term investments if NPS has the vision to utilize this resource.
Thank you, Congressman. The Secretary and I have spoken about this before, and we see our concessionaires exactly as that, helping with capitalization. They've done a wonderful job across the service in helping us really protect some of our more iconic buildings, everything from the hotels at Yosemite and Yellowstone and everywhere in between. So I've had some really great discussions with several of our concessionaires about that and what that looks like, and we look forward to continuing to partner with them in that opportunities to do that capitalization.
Oh, thank you. And I was pleased to see that the rulemaking process earlier this year finalized a rule that updates the contracting process for concessionaires. I'm concerned about transparency, and will you commit to making sure there's even more transparency in this process going forward?
I welcome the opportunity to work with you on that transparency issue. What I'm trying to make sure is we're modernizing our business practices, which is one of 7 of my initiatives that I've laid out before the staff. That is one of them, ensuring that it's very transparent. But if you see any issues in that, happy to work with you and your staff.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And Director Stone Manning, I'd like to ask you some questions about the so-called Landscape and Conservation Health Rule, which refers to mitigation and restoration leases. These have no acreage limits, and I'm concerned, how will BLM determine an adequate price per acre for these mitigation and restoration leases?
Congressman, thank you for the question. What these mitigation and restoration leases are going to be enable us to do is ensure that investment can come onto public lands to restore them so that they are healthy for future generations. We're currently working on guidance on what kind of rents we would charge for those and what they would cost.
Will they be paying royalties like oil and gas leases currently do?
Congressman, no, they will be charged rent and there will be bonding.
Okay. Now, what mechanism is in place to ensure that environmentalists, including some of the extreme groups out there, will use their 501c3s to generate massive donation-based funding to lock up tens or hundreds of thousands of acres of land?
Congressman, again, I need to be clear. These leases are not going to lock up land. Other uses will be available and allowed on the leases that are compatible. And we'll use the same adjudication process for all of our rights-of-ways that we use that we use for all of our rights-of-ways. We'll use for leases, and that stems from 43 CFR 2920.
Okay. Now, the BLM's Fluid Mineral and Leasing Rule establishes a preference criterion for leases. Where do mitigation and restoration leases rank in this criterion, in this order of priority?
Congressman, valid existing rights on leases will go forward. So if there's a valid existing right out there, we've got 10 million acres that are currently leased but not being used. That right would hold over the restoration or the mitigation. We would look elsewhere to put a restoration and mitigation lease.
Now, BLM has stated that these leases are only going to be necessary until the land has been restored to a usable condition. What will be the measurement criteria that defines when the land has been returned to a usable condition?
Yeah, thank you for that question. We do assessment and inventorying and monitoring as part of our daily work to have a real understanding of the ecosystems in which we work. It'll be science and data that drive the answer to that question.
Okay, and lastly, on a slightly different subject, BLM, or under the Biden administration, we have not had lease sales, except for one in Colorado in the last 3 years. Will you commit to holding a lease sale on the western slope this year in Colorado?
Congressman, it's my understanding that due to litigation, we have not been leasing on the western slope because so much of it is tied up in litigation.
I yield back.